Good morning from Waikiki Beach. Aloha. I don't know if you can see the surf today. We're kind of in a little bit of a lull right now, but the surf is big on the south shore at Waikiki. First really big swell of the summer months. It's probably coming somewhere from Antarctica, from a big storm system off Antarctica. So I had one of the biggest waves I've had in a long time yesterday. Hey Gerard, aloha, good morning. Gerard will understand this. It was like that day that you were here and Chuck broke his leg. It was really big and juicy waves. I don't know, I was way outside Queens, paddling to go around a keiki surf contest. So I was way outside. And then I saw a big set coming and I paddled another good 3 minutes to get out to where it was going to hit. And it was, I don't know how to say it, Gerard, it was just like a wave that was like the size of a house, you know, like, but not like a skinny house, a thick house. It was just a real thick A-frame wave. And I'd stand up, paddle into it just as hard as I could and just, you know, hoping I could get into it because the offshore trades were blowing. And I had a nice late drop and I had just replaced my fin with a nice, thick, longer fin because the one I'd been using had a little bit of a flex in it, and thank goodness I did, because as I made that drop, the fin held, I didn't slide out. I just had a nice, beautiful, long ride along the face of this beautiful wave, and so great way to start Sunday morning. And then I went up to the monastery, and I was able, at the North Shore of Oahu, the Benedictine monastery, and I've known the people there since 1974 when I first went to the Pecos Charismatic Benedictine monastery up there, and some of them came here and planted a monastery here. So I made my oblate profession last night, so it was really a blessing to be with two of the people there that I've known since those days. So Sister Mary Jo and Father Michael. So it was a real beautiful time. And I think it's kind of interesting talking about this big surf, because in some ways that's what the passions are in our lives. Passions are something that we need to direct. And so dropping into that big wave and you know, riding down the face of that wave, it was one of those waves too that got bigger as you rode it. It's something that we need to order our passions. We need to control our passions. A better way to say it is direct them. So we're talking about the morality of the passions. In paragraph 1767, in themselves passions are neither good nor evil. They are morally qualified only to the extent that they effectively engage reason and will. Oh yeah, and Gerard, you came in second in the contest yesterday or the day before, so congratulations. Gerard's a champion surfer. He's usually the head judge at all major events in stand-up paddle surfing on the East Coast, and he's one of the first 2 or 3 people that brought stand-up paddle surfing to the East Coast. So you should check him out, sobesurf.com, S-O-B-E surf.com. If you're going to the Cocoa Beach or Miami area, get his people to get you a lesson, and a great place to get boards too. One of my best friends in the world. Aloha, Gary Zemak. Everybody knows about Gary. He's one of the best known names in the new Catholic evangelization, and a good friend of mine. So I forget what your website is called again. Maybe you can post it for us, Gary. Anyway, we're talking about passions and moral life, and as we were saying, it's like that wave in and of itself isn't good or evil. If it's directed and breaks and hits knocks over a house, it's one thing. But yesterday when I was able to go out there and drop in on that big wave and just ride it so peacefully and beautifully, then it was good. So passions and moral life. In themselves, passions are neither good nor evil. They are morally qualified only to the extent that they effectively engage our reason and our will. Such a beautiful Catholic statement. Passions are said to be voluntary, either because they are commanded by the will or because the will does not place obstacles in their way. So either we can command our passions to be directed at something, or we can just say, I'm not going to try to stop my passions, I'm going to let them carry me wherever I want. And that, of course, you recognize that type of language. That's St. Thomas Aquinas. So let's read this again. In themselves, passions are neither good nor evil. They are morally qualified only to the extent that they effectively engage reason and will. Passions are said to be voluntary, and this is Thomas Aquinas now, either because they are commanded by the will or because the will does not place obstacles in their way. It belongs to the perfection of the moral or human good that the passions be governed by reason. And what does that mean? It means that we need to know what the true good is and to pursue it. Strong feelings are not decisive for the morality or the holiness of persons. They are simply the inexhaustible reservoir of images and affections in which the moral life is expressed. Now this sounds a little bit like St. Augustine, doesn't it? So let's read this again. Strong feelings are not decisive for the morality or the holiness of persons. They are simply the inexhaustible reservoir of images and affections in which the moral life is expressed. Passions are morally good when they contribute to a good action. They're evil in the opposite case. The upright will orders the movements of the senses. It appropriates to the good and to beatitude. An evil will succumbs to disordered passions and exacerbates them. I remember someone once came up to me and said, you've always taught that we should follow our passions. And my passions are directing me towards living a life as a lesbian. And I didn't really know how to respond at that time in my life to that person. But I would now, because I understand that passions are something that we're to direct. We're not to follow our passions. We're to be like the charioteer in a powerful chariot and direct our passions. So my response now would be, not to follow your passion, but to follow God's will. And God's will, of course, is for us to be in a heterosexual marriage or to remain celibate until that happens. The upright will orders the movements of the senses it appropriates to the good and to beatitude. An evil will succumbs to disordered passions and exacerbates them. Emotions and feelings can be taken up into the virtues or perverted by their vices. Emotions and feelings can be taken up into the virtues or perverted by the vices. When you let your passions run wild, they will tend to take you off the edge of a cliff. You need to direct your passions. And the more your will doesn't get in the way of saying, no, we're not going to go there with this passion, we're going to go here instead, it becomes more and more perverted. People who may have, it's right to desire to be married and to make love to a woman, but when that gets misdirected, especially in this day and age, especially among the young people, they can't hardly help but be attacked by pornography. People who begin to dwell on pornography, the more they look at it, the more and more perverted it becomes. So again, the strong feelings of desiring to make love to someone is a good, but how do you direct it? That's the key. So strong feelings are not decisive for the morality or the holiness of persons. They are simply the inexhaustible reservoir of images and affections in which the moral life is expressed. Passions are morally good when they contribute to a good action, evil in the opposite case. The upright will orders the movement of the senses. It appropriates to the good and to beatitude. An evil will succumbs to disordered passions and exacerbates them. Emotions and feelings can be taken up into the virtues or perverted by the vices. And so as our will, let's say you know that you need to get in shape. You know that physically you've been lethargic, you haven't been exercising. You know that you're not eating in a healthy eating regimen. it's really more of your will succumbing to a disordered passion to eat too much, or slothfulness in not exercising. And so we had a whole show, our last radio show that played Saturday, which you can still listen to if you go to our website, deepadventure.com. It was a friend of mine, Dallas Carter, who lost 200 pounds. And he did that by eating healthy, not eating bad sugar carbs, and limiting his portions and directing his portions away from some things with high calories towards other things with lower calories, so he could still eat a lot. And he started exercising. When he first started, he could only do one knee push-up, but he began his P90X program and began to exercise. So a virtuous person would take the passion and begin to look at your body and say, you're not the boss of me. You're going to get up and walk. You're not the boss of me. We're going to go for a swim. You're not the boss of me. You don't get to eat that. A strong will has to order the desires of the physical body too. But there's also, passions for glory, for power, for money, and all of those need to be directed. All desire is good. God gives us desires, but then we kind of misappropriate them and point them in the wrong direction. So the key to the holy life, to the good life, to the sunum bonum, is to direct our passions, to direct our desires. And St. Augustine said these words: Christianity is eros, towards God. It's desire for God. And the way you grow in desire for God is by sacred reading the catechism, reading your scriptures, reading the writings of the early church fathers, reading the writings of the saints, reading the writings of some of our modern authors, reading the writings of the popes, reading the lives of the saints, and spending time, pray the rosary every day, or pray the Jesus prayer, pray the liturgy of the hours, go to Mass. That's directing your arrows towards God. And in time, your arrows of prayer to the Lord will be returned to you in a piercing of your own heart, and so that your soul is aching for God and not for these other things. So moral perfection consists in a man being moved to the good, not by his will alone, but also by a sensitive appetite. As in the words of the psalm, my heart and flesh sing for joy to the living God. So that you become so ordered in your passions that your heart and your body are one in seeking God's will. I love Sister Mary Jo up at the monastery. Every now and then there's just a little leap in her step because she has such a love for the Lord. So we'll let you guys enjoy this surf. Gerard, I'm sorry it's not, you know how it is in big surf, there's lulls in the sets, but yesterday Castles was burning. When Castles breaks, it's the biggest break way outside Diamond Head here, and it only breaks on a really big swell, and it was breaking. It looks like a steam engine. When you're on the beach, you can't really see, you just see the top of the wave, and it's because it's 1.5 miles or 2 miles out. And so as the trade winds blow the lip of that wave back, it looks like a steam engine rolling across the horizon. And by the way, Kunas, that's where I got that big wave. And whenever Kunas is breaking in Waikiki, it's big. I'll let you enjoy the sunrise a little bit. I remember surfing in a surf contest maybe 30 years ago, a long time ago, and Henry Ford was the announcer, and he made the statement, look at the waves, it's corduroy to the horizon. And that's what it looks like today out there. It's just like corduroy, wave after wave after wave. Still not as big as that'll make Castles break, but Castles is showing at least. You can see the waves kind of rising up but not quite breaking. But Let me get my work done. Get to my desk and get some work done. Really, really kick a lot of butt, I guess, as you would say. Get a lot of work done, and then at the end of the day, go out and get some big ones. Love you guys. Aloha. We'll see you tomorrow. By the way, Cindy made her marathon run yesterday in San Diego at the San Diego Rock and Roll Marathon. She's on a flight back now, and they did it a different sort of a way. They decided they were doing a half marathon. They ran it halfway through. They stopped for Starbucks. In the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen.